Hello everyone, welcome to the Git tutorials. These tutorials are brought to you by Zeedup Technologies and Services. From this video onwards, we are going to start our new tutorial series, and these tutorials will help you to understand the basics of Git and help you to work with Git very easily. So you must be wondering that what is Git? Well, Git is a DVS. So what is a DVS? Actually, DVS stands for Distributed Version Control. So Git is a distributed version control system and a source code management system that has its main emphasis on speed. It was initially designed by Linus Torvalds. If you are wondering who that person is, so he's the person behind the creation of Linux operating system. Basically, Git was created to aid in the design for the Linux kernel development, and Git is a free software that is distributed under the terms of GNU General Public License. So these words are very heavy, right? Let us now understand that what is Git, or basically what is version control. Version control is a system that records the changes that you make to a file or a set of files. Why it is important? Like, we know that whenever we are coding, we are bound to make some changes, and every time it does not results in a favorable outcome. So if you want to go back to your previous versions, or if you want to make out that who made what changes, then you can do that very easily using version control. Any file could be placed on the version control either locally or on the internet. So if you are using the version control, then if you time if you just see that who has made the changes, you would be able to make out that okay, this is the person who made these changes, and you have access to the information that is worthwhile. So Git provides us that feature only, that it is a distributed version control system. It does not relies on a central server. You do not need a central server to store all the files. Instead of that, what happens is each and every user creates a set of files for himself. That is known as a clone. And whenever those set of files or the clones of those files are created, then the full history of the changes is also created for that particular user. That means Git is a boon for those working in a team project. The clone that is generated by any person could be changed to the way they like, and whatever changes they make into that clone, they could be brought back into the original software or the original version very easily. Also, whenever you find any kind of an error or any kind of anomaly in the code, then you can simply go to the previous version very easily, because version control has the full control of the same. You can just go to any of the previous versions, you can track all these changes, and you can make out that who made what changes. Git helps you to synchronize the code between multiple people. So let us imagine a scenario. Suppose you and your friend are working on a project and both of you are having the same project files. Okay. Now, when you are using Git, you can create a master repository. The question is, what is a repository? So repository is just a collection of files. Now, by using Git, you both can work on the most recent version of the repository, which means that both of you know that what is exactly going on in the project, And whatever changes you want to do, you can just do into that repository and just share with one another. So you do not need to keep a hell lot of files, a hell lot of duplicate files, and just end up mailing those files to one another and screaming over one another that, okay, this is the file, no, that is the file, and whatever it is. So Git helps you to just ease your work. So this is what the Git is. This is the basic introduction to Git. And in this tutorial, we would be looking exactly at this, that what is Git? We have already seen. How can we use Git? What are its advantages and what are its features? So I hope you will enjoy this tutorial journey with me, and I wish you all the best for your upcoming journey. If we talk about the benefits of Git, so the first benefit is it saves time. We know that Git's one of the greatest strength is its speed. Each and every operation that you perform or each and every command that you give on Git takes only a few seconds to execute. So we can just save a hell lot of time if we are working with Git. Apart from that, we do not need to manage like innumerable files which may be duplicate and end up mailing them with one another. We can just make some changes to the file and basically store it in the repository, and it would be able to be shared with each and every person who is on the team. Second benefit is it enables offline working, which is one of the most important benefit, especially if you are having internet connectivity issues. So if your internet is not at good speed or if there is some connectivity issue, then also your work would not suffer. Git can store everything locally as compared to the other systems, and whenever you want, you can just make the changes into the remote repository. Git helps you to undo your mistakes. So basically, if you have made some changes to your code which you do not like, or the changes are like causing some error, so you can very easily go back to the version which was a stable one, because Git is designed exactly for that. Git is a version control system and it helps you to do that. Apart from that, it helps you to track the changes. That is, what all changes you have done. There are some exciting features like log, status, which helps you to track that what changes have been done over time on your file. If we talk about the features of Git, so there are different Git features. The most common one of them are Git is an open source tool, which means that it is released under the GNU General Public License, so everyone is able to use it for freely. You do not have to pay anything to use Git, and this is the one of the most important feature of Git. Git is scalable. That means that if there are an innumerable number of users, then also each and every one of them would be able to use Git as per their advantage, and it would not show any kind of an error or a congestion or whatever it is. Security is a very important aspect, especially whenever you are dealing with confidential data. So whenever you are dealing with the source code, security becomes automatically a very important thing. Luckily, Git provides us good levels of security. It uses the SHA-1 function, that is the secure hash function, to encrypt the objects in its repository. You can use the SSH protocol yourself to make sure that whatever changes you do into your repository from your local machine are tracked and they are well encrypted. All the files and commits are checked and retrieved by the checksum at the time of the checkout. Once the changes are done or it is published, so no one can make the changes to the old version. Also, only the team members could make changes, although your source code is available to each and every one of them, but only few people can make changes to whom you have given the authorization. Speed. Git is very fast. It can do all the operations in just a second. So if you are planning to do some complex things with Git, or you want to store huge files, then also you do not need to worry, because speed is one of the Git's greatest strength. So this is all you need to know about the benefits and features of Git. In this video, before starting with the Git, we are going to understand its workflow. That is how the things work in Git. It is very important for you as a beginner to understand that how Git works before actually starting to work with it. Because if you are familiar with the concept, then you would be able to grasp the commands or the operations quickly. So in this video, we will explain that what is the workflow of Git, or basically how Git works. So this is the architecture, or this is the complete workflow of Git. You can see there are 3 bubbles representing the working directory, the staging directory or the staging area, and the repository. Repository, I have already told you, is a collection of files or a collection of source code. So there can be 2 repositories, as we know that Git can also work locally. So there can be 2 repositories, either the local repository or the central repository or the remote repository, right? So the local repository resides in your machine. That means if you are working on your project onto your machine, then whatever changes you are doing to your project will be ultimately taken into the local repository. Now, when you want to make those changes into the remote repository, then only they would be done over there. Remote repository is the place where all the people who are a part of the team or who are collaborating on the project submit their work. While on the local repository, whatever changes you make to your project on your behalf would be stored. You can transact the file to and fro from the local repository to the remote repository very easily using simple Git commands. So this was about the repository. Now let us just discuss about the working directory. So working directory is just like a folder. It is the place where you actually work or make the changes to your projects. So wherever whatever project you are working on, you must store it at a particular location into your machine, and this location is known as the working directory. Now once you have made the changes into your working directory, all the changes first go into the staging directory or the staging area instead of directly going into the repository. So this staging area thing is very important. It is just like a unique thing that is offered to us by Git. It can be considered as like a preview of what changes we have done before submitting them into the repository. Also, it gives us an intermediate area where we can just store our project files or whatever files we have changed or added for a while before going into the repository. So before making a commit, before adding to the repository. So the act of adding anything to the repository is known as commit in terms of Git. So before making a commit, we can store all the things in the staging area and preview them as per our wish. When we make a commit, the Git takes the changes of the staging area and applies those changes onto the repository. When the changes are done in the repository, then those changes could easily be taken into the remote repository. But first of all the changes have to be moved to the local repository from the staging area. All the people are allowed to add and remove the changes from the staging area itself. If you want to undo any changes, then you can do that very easily. It can be considered as a place where Git stores all the changes that you have done on your project. So this is the usage of the staging directory, the repository, and the working directory. This is how the Git works, and this is what its workflow is. So I hope you all must have learned something new from this video. From the next video onwards, we will start something new. Thanks for watching. Hey there, you can get the full course on our website. Visit www.zeedup.com to know more. And if you like our videos, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and share them with your friends having similar interests.